Well, it is Thursday. I'm so excited to have two ladies with me. This is my first program with three folks being displayed at the same time. It's a little bit exciting for me, a little bit different. Maybe that accounts for our technical challenges. This is Halitics. Click bottom right to subscribe. Welcome, Felicia Madison. Welcome, Elizabeth Croydon. Let's start with you, Lizzie, because you've been on the program before. Why did you reach out to me and say, Hal, I want to get back on Halitics? Let's see if we can hear you there. There we go. Let's start it again. I had you muted. Go ahead.
I can't see you, Hal. I just want to let you know.
All right. Well, there you go. That's good.
Oh, all right.
By the way, that's good to tell me. So we've got all sorts of balls that are hitting the ground. I was trying to keep them in the air. That must be, let me start this way then. That must be familiar to you two comics, right? I mean, you do shows. There's always something that's messed up. Or am I wrong? Does everything run like clockwork?
Yes, there's always something messed up because it's usually the comedian on the stage.
So you're saying the club owners and managers have everything perfect for you guys and then you kind of mess it up? Is that how that works?
No, she's saying I'm always high when I come to her club to tell jokes. That's what she's saying, Hal.
All right, let's start with your coming up on the 14th of September in Manhattan. Tell us about that. You go, Liz.
I call the show ERA, Elizabeth's Radical Agenda. And on my agenda, Thursday evening at 9 p.m. at the West Side Comedy Club is Felicia Madison, Eric Marino, Carol Montgomery, Felicia Michaels, Rhonda Hanson, and joining our lineup is Jay McBride. So I am really excited about the 14th. It is a benefit for Equal Means Equal, which is the women's rights organization that helped the last three states ratify the ERA and is behind driving the national dialogue forward to make certain that everyone knows that the president is the only person that can publish this law. And so the job right now is to place the pressure on the president. Many lawyers will say that technically the Equal Rights Amendment is already a law because it has been ratified, and now the publication of it is just merely wrapped up in red tape. So I am very grateful to have such a powerfully talented group of people support this issue. We have a number of tickets. Tickets start at $28. They jump up to $280 if you want a nifty gift bag. And for $2,800, Felicia and I will take very good care of you.
Wow, that sounds like, I mean, for $2,800, you better. The link is in the description of the video on YouTube. So if you want tickets, just click right there, westsidecomedyshow.com. And I can't remember, I think Miss Lizzie or Lizzie's in there as well. Her name, Croydon's in there as well. You can see I've got the promo I copied from your site there, Elizabeth. And one thing that really struck out at me, Felicia, is there's two Felicias, and not only two Felicias, two Felicia M's. So is this confusing for you guys? Like, do you kind of not sure who's supposed to be on stage? Do you both look at each other when they say Felicia's on, or do you both rush out trying to get there first? How does that work?
Well, she's West Coast Felicia. I'm East Coast Felicia. So we don't cross paths that often, but when we do, it's kind of fun. It's like the Felicias. I always thought we should do an act like the two Felicias.
It's like the two Marlenas, right?
Everyone's usually saying bye, Felicia. It's refreshing to every once in a while be able to say hi, Felicia.
Yeah, I was thinking of that song, The Three Marlenas. I said two Marlenas, but you could do the two Felicias. That would certainly work, or the two Felicia M's. This is fun.
FM Stereo.
Very nice.
That should be the name of their podcast. They should do a podcast together, and it should be called FM Stereo. See?
Is your show, now I noticed there's one male, there's 4 or 5 women, plus you have a female guest. Is this like kind of I wouldn't say women only, but do you find that a high percentage of your audience, like a Taylor Swift concert, is going to be mostly women?
No, I get women, men, non-binary, I get aliens.
Wow.
I think some amoebas enjoy my comedy when I tell it to them in the morning, and they're swimming in my water, and I ask them not to eat my brain. I enjoy entertaining everyone, and Eric Marino is one of my favorite comedians. He and I did open mics every Sunday at the Comedy Store back in 2002 when I first showed up at the Comedy Store. He is an Emmy-nominated Peabody Award-winning writer. He wrote for SNL. He wrote for Weeds. He and I worked with Mike Gray briefly on a Law Enforcement Against Prohibition advertisement, public service announcement. He wrote for Ellen, the episode when she came out, and he's just one of my favorite people ever. His birthday is September 23rd. I always get him a present if I can afford it. Sorry, I haven't gotten you a present in 10 years, Eric. And one
tough.
time,
I was amazed. I mean, speaking of money, I was amazed. You guys are not paid well unless you're at the very top, right? I mean, what is it, like 30 grand or something is the average entertainer salary?
well, one time, Eric and I were smoking weed in the back of the Comedy Store, and I was in a deplorable state of poverty, and the police were being reunited. So I told Eric if $200 fell from the sky in cash in my hand, I would take him to the police concert. And the next day, someone paid me for my children's rap songs that had an emphasis on critical thought and cognitive thinking. And we both went to the police concert to avoid your question.
So, Felicia, why are you doing this for Lizzie? I mean, are you guys longtime friends? Did she just call you up? And what's the impetus? Are you as strong a believer in women's rights and equal means equul as she is?
No, I think women should be inferior to men.
Wow. Okay, good. I'm loving that.
I'm a big advocate of helping women in general. I love doing lots of female-led shows. And to answer your question previously, women are making a lot of the decisions, especially when it's time to go out. So I remember the first time I did an all-female lineup and I was worried that would it sell out. But women are making the decisions. They're the ones that are making the plans at night. So yeah, I'm not afraid of putting on a female show, and I'm 100% supportive of women and helping them, especially in this industry, which tends to have been very male dominated for a lot of years. Now I finally feel like my lineups are, if I have more women or equal women, they're as strong or even better than if they were not.
Well, there's a long history. I was just thinking about what you were just saying, Felicia, a long history of misogyny, homophobia, the whole transphobia in comedy. Thinking back to like Richard Pryor specials in the 70s, Eddie Murphy. I mean, they made a lot of money with homophobic jokes. Do you guys go there? I mean, how do you avoid, do you try to avoid the, I guess, kicking down, right? I mean, good comedy should also be about focusing on kicking up, right? Punching up. Yeah. Anything on that, Liz?
Well, that's why I'm really excited. Jay McBride agreed to come do my show. Jay McBride is the first openly trans woman to have ever played Madison Square Garden. She tours both as a comic and as a public speaker. She visits high schools, communities, school boards to discuss what folks can do to help trans kids and the challenges that they face in our communities today. She's a real positive person, and I'm just thrilled that she's there. I just wanted to book a show the way the shows are traditionally booked, inverted. Usually it's just one female with 8 comics. So I wanted to pick a token male comic, and Eric Marino is so funny. If you spell his initials backwards, it says me. And he is one of my favorite comics. So,
that's awesome. Well, we're going to get into some politics.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
No, good.
That's great. Anything else? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you there, Felicia.
No, I just, that we could spend a whole other hour discussing the topic of punching up and, the whole issue of comedians being afraid to speak out. So we could save that for another time. I could go on and on about that, but
Yeah.
it is a problem. And I encourage, the one thing we always say to comedians about that topic in particular, which I find a lot of people don't do, is, it has to be funny. Like if it's funny, yeah, but if you're going to broach on a very, very sensitive topic, you better make sure it's freaking hysterical. And I think a lot of people, Dave Chappelle included, has done jokes that just weren't funny. That's why there was so much controversy behind it.
Well, we are here not just to talk about comedy, but to talk about topics that are not very funny at all with Felicia and Elizabeth. So let's go to Maui. You wanted to talk about how bad things are on that island. Let's just play this real quick clip from this morning's NBC News, which really, I think, puts in perspective how every day things get worse.
Thanks for joining us. We begin this morning with those wildfires in Hawaii as search efforts and cleanup continues. Governor Josh Green says more than 1/3 of the burn areas have been searched so far by recovery teams looking for more victims.
At least 111 people have now been confirmed dead as Maui officials continue identifying victims. Several Hawaii legislators are now calling on the state attorney general to appoint an independent investigator to carry out a comprehensive review of the wildfires and the response. Questions are also being raised about the warnings that were issued as the fires began intensifying and spreading. Maui's emergency management director is defending the decision to not sound sirens during the wildfires.
In a wildland fire incident, the system has not been used either in Maui or in other jurisdictions around the state. In this case, our internal protocol is to use WEA, which is the Wireless Emergency Alert System, and the EAS, the Emergency Alert System.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not.
NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us now on the ground in Hawaii. Steve, good morning. So let's begin there with that decision to not sound the warning sirens. Explain to us what goes into this decision to give warnings on the island, and what else is the emergency management director saying about this?
Yeah, Joe, first of all, this is one of the most sophisticated siren systems in the entire world. 400 sirens spread out across this entire island chain, 80 on Maui alone. The reasoning from the emergency management here is that those sirens are typically used for things like tsunamis. So the argument is that in using the sirens, they would have effectively put people even more danger, because the notion would have been to go up into a mountainous region where emergency managers say the fire was actually burning. So they, don't regret that decision, according to the emergency managers. I've spoken to several people, though, here, especially victims, who say that any warning would have been better than no warning.
All right, so I wanted to play that, Liz, from Hawaii authorities. And there you just have NBC saying they have this incredibly sophisticated warning system and they chose not to use it, and they don't even regret that decision.
Yeah, that's a real hard stance there on not regretting that decision. And I actually have to question the numbers of the dead that they're quoting as well. I've seen videotapes of several Hawaiian residents and survivors say that the numbers of the dead are being underreported, severely underreported. There were kids sent home from school that day who were home without their parents, who had no warning that this was coming their way. And they died in their house without any supervision. And I think about the horror that they must have gone through without having any warning. If those children had had warning, they could have maybe gone to a neighbor they knew was home. They could have maybe called their parents at work to find out what to do. It galls me that they did not start the emergency warning system that they have in place that's so high tech. It makes me wonder about the accusations that Native Hawaiians are making regarding the fact that the territories that suffered the most in the fire are highly sought after real estate. And Maui has been the subject of becoming one of the first smart islands ever. In the eyes of real estate developers, this is a real opportunity. And I'm really concerned for the future of Maui residents.
Yeah, I saw an article about disaster capitalism and how this is another disaster that the real estate industry, and specifically the elites in that industry in Hawaii, can exploit to take land at relatively, much cheaper prices than it's been and push out some of the working class folks. This was not just a bunch of rich Hawaiians, rich Americans, or rich internationals who had houses on the water, but a vibrant middle class town.
Lahaina. Lahaina's an old Hawaiian town with houses passed on to families. It's primarily built out of wood. There's been a decades-long fight between the indigenous Hawaiians and outside developers coming in and wanting that prime territory. It's horrifyingly questionable how this property was burned to the ground. In the meantime, Oprah has 2,000 acres of land, which is untouched. I hope that she will help the Hawaiian community, not just with her major donation that she promises after development and how we are going to rebuild is discussed, but right now in the interim, allowing families to come out of those emergency shelters and find refuge on her land. I really hope that these people's lives are respected and protected to the best of their ability.
I think you mentioned Roseanne also has a presence there.
Roseanne has a macadamia farm in Maui. I'm not exactly certain where that is located or if she was affected. My friend Rob Digman and his wife Tina were affected. They were evacuated. Rob has long COVID. And so and he just flatlined a week before the fire. Rob's been a longtime investor in my movies and my comedy, and he and his wife just saw a season of destination weddings canceled. They run a celebrity catering business and destination wedding business, and they were very responsible about getting their employees on unemployment right away. So there's no question that their employees are protected. But now Rob is in his home, which is untouched by the fire, but they don't have potable water. And, he has severe health issues at hand. So, I started a personal fundraising campaign for Rob Digman. You can go to my social media, Elizabeth Croydon on Facebook or Instagram. I did a spot fund campaign for them. But the implications of this across Hawaii for tourism, these independent business contractors that make their living off of people visiting the island and seeing the beauty of the rainbow elm trees and stuff, it's gone for now. And
it's such a tragedy. It's just awful. I don't know what else you're going to say. The most deadly fire in American history in over a century. This may rival now the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory that burned down, and all those almost all seamstresses, women who died because the exits were all blocked, and then also they couldn't get the fire water hoses up high enough. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it takes a lot of balls to stand on the argument that people were better off not being warned. You have the emergency broadcasting sound system on the radio where you can tell people it's a fire, not a tsunami. Not, yeah.
Well, Felicia, I want to just bring Felicia into this real quick. That was my first thought too, was the authority was saying, well, we don't want people rushing up into the mountains because they'll be driving right into the fire. But I would assume the first warning signal tells you to turn on your radio, right? Turn on your transistor, turn on your phone. I understand all the electric power was being turned off, although it was turned off very late. That was another aggravating factor. But people aren't going to just blindly, there's the sound. Let's rush into the mountains. Obviously, they're going to turn on their radios in their car. It does make sense, Felicia.
You can have the best systems, and if people don't know how to properly use them, then they're not really valuable. I mean, obviously they didn't think maybe that there'd be fires that people would have to worry about. Like, why was that not something discussed with these people beforehand, that the system goes off and then you should go, like Elizabeth said, see what the problem is, not just rush to the mountains.
Last time I checked, Hawaii has volcanoes. I mean, like.
I mean, are you suspicious too, Felicia? Do you see this as a potential, I don't want to say conspiracy, but a situation where maybe a few folks said, hey, fires clean everything out and we can now.
I'm a very cynical person, but I would hope to think that the world is not as horrible as to do something like that. I mean, that is beyond comprehension that someone would actually do that, but who knows? I think we should make this site the site of the next Republican National Convention. Because global warming obviously had something to do with this.
Right, absolutely. The hotter, drier summers aggravating the condition, although this is not the poster child apparently for global warming disasters, the way we had massive storms in Beijing earlier this month as well, that were the first highest rainfall in 140 years. But this seems like a confluence of factors, all human cause, right? All this, the brush, the very dry winds, all conspiring to cause this disaster.
My friend Bill Greenleaf in Maui reported that it started with a down power line that touched off on a gas station.
And they didn't Oh, go ahead.
I don't know where he got that information, but he is also one of the affected in Maui. I'm very grateful that I visited Maui before this disaster occurred. I saw a beautiful ecosystem that is unique and precious in this world, and that is gone along with these lives. I can't get over the death toll. So I guess what they mean by 111 people dead is that they have found 111 people. There's 1,000 people missing, as I have read reports. And then these survivors are saying that the dead are severely underreported. One survivor who was forced into the burning ocean and instructed to dive under the ash because the first layer of ash sealed the water. The second layer of ash was burning. So people had to dive under the burning water to get into the safe water. And this gentleman was saying that he just saw hordes and hordes of incinerated cars with the dead in them, with the flames coming out. And once again, I'll just reiterate, to not use the emergency warning system and to not turn off the power has to be two of the stupidest things that I've ever heard. And I apologize for being accusatory in my demeanor, but gross negligence comes to mind, and class action lawsuit comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, you just said that they're all basically wood buildings, and it just tore, from what I've read, it just tore through. People didn't even know there was a fire until they saw the smoke in their backyard.
Well, they're predicting that the death toll could at least double, if not more so. As I understand it, there are very few of those who have been confirmed dead have even been identified because the remains are so charred. So they really just don't know, as to your point, Elizabeth, they just don't know how many people have been killed.
What else are comedians going to be expected to do in this day and age? Here we are just trying to tell jokes, and then along comes politics and media, and we can no longer trust our politicians and our media to give us the truth. So people turn to comedians for politics and the truth. Now we got no emergency broadcasting systems. Do I have to go over to Maui and use my big voice that I spoke up against Ted Cruz to be like, hey, everybody, there's a fire. Get out of the house and go to safety. Because I will, because I love people that much. I just can't imagine a safety committee. And I have friends that are in safety and compliance for our U.S. government. I can't imagine a safety committee going, yeah, not saying anything's a good decision, and let's keep on the power so the kids can watch TV at home.
It's pretty hard to understand what they were thinking there in Maui. It really is. All right,
there's the age-old expression, hindsight is 20/20. I mean, who knows? It was an emergency that was happening, and they made decisions based upon the information they had at the time. Obviously, in hindsight, it was an extremely poor, tragic decision. But I'd like to think that these people were doing the best that they could. But yeah, I mean, like, I grew up getting those emergency warnings on your TV. It's always been just a warning. I'm like, like you said, isn't that the point of it? Like, I'm sure all those kids were home watching, Sesame Street or whatever, and would have benefited greatly from a emergency warning system. Get out of the house.
Yeah, it's like the bat signal. You don't just see the bat signal and then rush blindly. You see the bat signal, and then Batman and Robin respond, and they call the commissioner and find out what the problem is that they need to address. So clearly, the warning was designed, I think, to tell people there's a problem. Find out what it is. We'll be giving you further instructions. Maybe that wasn't the case. More
importantly, now we have to figure out a solution of how we're going to help these people.
Well, you're watching Halitics. You're listening to Halitics. I've got Elizabeth and Felicia with me. They're comedians. They are going to be performing in Manhattan on the 14th of September. Click the link that's in the description of this video if you want tickets and for much more information. Should be a great program. This is in support of Equal Means Equal, Equal Rights Amendment, which is all ready to be signed into law. I did switch to our next topic. You can see on the screen now. Is this going to be a part of the humor? Yeah. Will you be able to make some hay out of former President Trump and his indictments? I know you want to talk about that, Liz. Let's just play this real quick. Also, some news. I just want to set the table. I haven't been talking much about this, so here's an opportunity.
My name is Kate Brumback. I'm a reporter with the Associated Press, and I'm standing here in front of the Fulton County Courthouse in downtown Atlanta.
A Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state.
Late Monday evening, former President Donald Trump and 18 of his allies were indicted in Georgia and accused of scheming to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state.
The indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani.
Prosecutors accused the former president, lawyers, and other top aides in a sweeping criminal conspiracy aimed at keeping him in power. The 97-page indictment details dozens of acts by Trump and his allies to undo his defeat in the battleground state.
The participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis said during a news conference that the grand jury had issued arrest warrants for the 19 people charged.
I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023.
She intends to seek a trial date within the next 6 months.
All right, so there's your video. And I got to tell you, if I were Trump and I was watching that, I would be really pretty darn worried. She is badass Fani Williams. I would not want to go up against her.
Daughter of a Black Panther.
Is that right? Yeah. I did not know that. Yeah. But she's clearly presented the case in a way that makes you think she's got it in her back pocket. I mean, I wouldn't want to face her in court. I would just say that. And I'm a former trial lawyer. I think she's got it. She's got it sewed up there, ladies. So what's your reaction, Liz? Let's go to you first here.
It's political Christmas. I call it Pissmas.
I mean, you're someone who's equally hates or almost as much can't stand the Democrats, and yet you're really excited about this. You don't see it as just partisan at all. You think this is based on...
Mistake me not. Mistake me not. I am a lifelong Democrat. I am not voting Democrat right now because they have not given me a candidate that I want to vote for, and my state always goes blue. I have voted Green Party before and would like to see more choices and ranked voting in this country. But let me tell you, watching the white supremacists go down in this country in a burning flame of recall law. The satisfaction is overwhelming. A convicted sex offender has been indicted again with 19 of his gangbanging cohorts. I'm so delighted that Rudy Giuliani is mixed up in this. The Clash song goes, Rudy can't fail. And apparently he did with 18 other people. So I am just gleefully overjoyed and hope that I see him in jail.
Now, is this going to be material? Are either of you going to use this as material on the 14th?
Well, before the show, Elizabeth showed us her new coffee cup, which was a cockroach prevention. And I think we need to find something like that for the United States because these guys are cockroaches. We just can't, no matter what we do, we can't seem to kill them. They keep coming back. We need a cockroach protection for the United States of America. I mean, I worry that, someone said this, that all these indictments and all this stuff is just fueling the fire underneath them to make them even stronger and support Trump even more.
They are pests.
That's what scares me is that, it's only great if it's successful. God forbid they fail. This United States will be ruined because it's just flaming the fire for these people to even believe more that that the government's so corrupt. So I hope to God this woman completes her job and does it swiftly and correctly.
Yeah, I think you make a great point because I was going to say, I think a lot of the Democratic impeachments really backfired badly against the party. And I have my various theories as to why. This to me feels very different. This seems factually based. They've got all their ducks in a row, and it doesn't even feel partisan. It's just, he was calling a Republican election official Ravensburger and begging him, and threatening him to try to come up with votes that weren't there to keep him in office. That's illegal.
Yeah. None of this. Listen, I got in trouble calling up my lineup for this show and threatening them if they didn't do my show. So I hope that they get in trouble for what they've done, certainly. And we do, like Marianne Williamson has this great idea for a Department of Peace with the Department of Justice and the Department of Labor and Interior, which my dad served. I'd like to see a National Department of Pest Control working on Felicia's cockroach theory, We could maybe put down some fly paper on Constitution Avenue when they all get off work, and catch their SUVs on the tires. I want to see some pest control. And what are we doing letting this guy run? Okay. He's a convicted sex offender running for president with indictments of treason and racketeering. When does it end? When are you like, hey, the stochastic terrorism that you started off with, well, we're a war economy. We like tough talking, and we didn't think that people would actually, do it. But, you've gone a little too far with the racketeering and the classified documents in the bathroom. The
only way for him to save his ass is to get reelected so he could pardon himself because he's in deep doo-doo right now.
We're gonna have the first organized mobster president. I mean, we already had him.
He might plea to not run, right? If he signs something that he says he will absolutely not run for office ever again, maybe they would drop charges. I didn't get that sense from Fani Willis. I think she's out for blood in this case.
No, we want him in jail. He did. I wore shackles for 5.5 hours exercising free speech. I disrupted nothing. The vote continued. I'm supposed to enjoy federal protections exercising my free speech. Usually my free speech costs $50 and a ticket. The prices, it is a lot, right? You would
or
think for free speech,
2,800, right? 2,800 for that table.
Well, and for the table at the show. Yeah. And you can heckle us. Okay. I mean, that's the glorious thing about comedy. We don't put you through 3 rings of security. We don't give you a speech saying that you can't smile and you can't frown and you can't show bias and you can't heckle us. We say, come in. We say whatever the fuck you want and good luck. Good luck with our response. But if I wore shackles for heckling Ted Cruz from the Senate gallery, when do the racketeers and the people who stole classified documents and threatened voters, when did they wear their shackles? I mean, what qualifies? Come on now. I want to see the guy. I want to see Orange Julius in orange in shackles. That's what I want. And re-indicted, and it feels so good. Re-indicted, be it understood.
Well,
dig up his yeah.
Elizabeth, I want to see you on stage. I already have your costume or wardrobe. It's going to be red tape all around you.
Nice. I love that. I love that.
Shackles. We're going to shackle you to the stage, but you can still use your mouth and still use your voice. You cannot keep Elizabeth down.
I think shutting her mouth would be a lot harder than any other type of restraints that you might consider.
Ask my boyfriends that engage in SM with me. I know how to rip my mouth out and say my safe word.
All right. So we have got Felicia and Elizabeth with us for maybe 10, 12 more minutes. They are comedians. They are doing a great show in New York on the 14th. Please click the link in the show description so you can get tickets to see Elizabeth's program there, Equal Means Equal, and a great slate of comedians, including, of course, Felicia Madison, who's with us. There's also Felicia Michaels, so you can vote on who's the funnier Felicia, I suppose.
No competition.
I would. You're the funnier one because you're here for sure. Felicia Madison. So a couple more things. It was kind of a women's show, although I'm doing a lot of talking, as I always do. Will the abortion rights issue, will that be a benefit for the Democrats? It sure looks like it. We saw Ohio women and men come out in droves to protect women's right to reproductive choice in just last week. So what do you think, Felicia and Elizabeth, on abortion? Is this working for the Democrats?
I think traditionally, people might believe in abortion rights and speak that they believe it, but a lot of times when it comes to voting, they don't make their decision based on it, or traditionally that's been the case. I'm hoping that will change. I think traditionally that's what they've said. You could come out and say, I believe in rights, but when they get to the voting booth, they don't vote for abortion rights.
Elizabeth?
Well, I think that if the Democrats would just pressure the president to publish the Equal Rights Amendment, we would not be having these petty arguments over the autonomy of women's bodies in these state issues. And I think it's deplorable that we have to waive this issue and break it down individually into pockets: Equal Pay Act, abortion rights. And I guess, very cynically, sure, of course, the topic of abortion is going to help Democrats. But, what would help Democrats is actually doing things instead of talking about it, actually passing the Equal Rights Amendment instead of dangling it over working class and impoverished people's heads as a reason to vote. There's this whole swath of Americans that don't vote at all, and we need to activate them while working on persuading people who are misinformed on the far right to come closer and listen to these messages of equality and autonomy. But does it help to just talk about these things? I don't know. I certainly would like to see President Biden publish the Equal Rights Amendment before this election campaign. And if Biden publishes the Equal Rights Amendment, I'm Biden. I'll vote Biden. If Biden publishes the Equal Rights Amendment and gives me body autonomy along with the rest of the women in this country and promises federal protections, I'm voting Biden. But until then, I'm not voting for anyone who is not discussing the Equal Rights Amendment.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty sad that in this day and age, our choices are Biden and Trump. I think if it comes down to that, I'm going to run for president.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on record. I'm supporting Dr. West in the Green Party at this point. There's just the drilling from Biden has done nothing to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, among other issues. That's one of my top issues. And yes, the Equal Rights Amendment is really important. I would tie abortion rights to the right to health care. This is such a huge issue across the country. So many Americans can't get health care because it's out of their price range, or they can't access insurance, which is way unaffordable to begin with, or health, or medications are so expensive. So if Biden did that, that would almost guarantee his reelection, I believe. And beat this guy on the screen.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, along with just doing things, helping the working people right now is essential. There are so many strikes right now. And while Biden says that employment's up because that one working person has 3 jobs to pay their rent. Right. That's why their, employment is up. That one person trying to hold down a house has 3 jobs. And then they're selling things on Etsy. So it would be really nice to see Medicare for all go down in this country, single payer. We've done tons of research on it. Hillary came out of the gate before she was shut down by the system with her single payer plan when her husband was elected to office. We know that single payer could save lots of money. Again, it's just a matter of corporate greed. My fellow individuals that happen to be corporations. Corporations are people now. I don't understand that.
It's hard to see us as living in a democracy, really, when policies that are very popular are just completely ignored, have no chance of becoming law, while unpopular laws remain on the books because they benefit a few rich and powerful people. All right, we are talking to 2 women comics, Felicia and Elizabeth. Please go see their program if you're in New York on the 14th. And it's kind of...
Or if you're in D.C. or New Jersey.
You're going to be in New York. This is a tour.
No. I'm saying come up for the weekend.
Yes.
There will be a march on the 17th. You come up for the 14th for the comedy show, like attorney Ann Wilcox is doing, and Mark Giannone is coming up for the weekend. You enjoy our show. You stay for the climate crisis march on Sunday, and you go home to your government job. But native New Yorkers, come out and see me. I want the smart people, the people that are planning to survive the apocalypse, to come out. I've got plans. I've got emergency routes. I have apocalypse insurance for sale that comes with 1 monster truck and a male and female guinea pig so that you can breed your fresh meat supply.
How could anyone turn that down? I mean,
Right?
that's just
The apocalypse will be merchandised.
Are guinea pigs kosher?
They are if they're blessed by a rabbi. And they're slaughtered correctly.
Let's get to our final topic. This is the Women's World Cup. I was glad to see, Elizabeth, you are following this. I don't normally watch women's sports, but I love watching women's soccer because I don't see any difference between them and the men, the way they play. And they do things I could never do. So you find this very exciting as well. Is that right?
Sunday, 6 a.m., England versus Spain. It's Isabella and Elizabeth all over again without the monster ships. I'm very excited. I'm picking out my pub based on an article in New York on all of the soccer pubs. I'll be there at 6 a.m. with a triple port Guinness in my hand. Wow. I used to play the goalie in MSI soccer, Hal, in Montgomery County soccer. It was one of the first girl leagues actually in soccer in 1976, 77. I started playing. I love soccer. Wow. I think it's great. And I'm very excited. I was very excited for the Jamaican team. They kicked so much butt this glorious cup. And the cup itself is beautiful. I mean, soccer is a diplomatic sport, and from a poet's eye, I look at the sport as long cursive. When you've got the passes going well and you're looking at the whole field, it kind of looks like cursive writing to me.
Let me just jump in because we don't have a lot of time. And
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, I don't want to keep Felicia too long
as
either.
An Irish woman, I want Spain to kick England's ass.
Wow, and I know you were rooting. So the Lionesses won, and there's a picture of Sam Kerr, the striker for Australia, who made an incredible goal. I want to show that goal, and then I want to show the headline from this headline here in England. So they're not crying any tears for the Aussies here at the Daily Mail. Lioness roared a victory while Matilda's fans cry into their fosters. I guess, is that the kind of media we want here? I don't know, where they mock the losing team's fans. And is that just because it's Australia versus England? I'm not sure. Any thoughts on that, Felicia?
Oh, I'm not a soccer fan. I'm going to defer to Elizabeth on this one.
But the mocking of the fan base, though, is kind of amusing. They're crying to your to your fosters.
It used to be that sports was the only section of the news that you could watch without any bad, negative. It was always positive and uplifting, and even that's being pulled down. It's so sad.
Oh, wow. Well,
England has always taken football to a violent level, and there's always been riots, and the fans are a huge part of it. They in England, it's traditional, to shout at the other team's fans and go, or shout at the players and say, "Your support is shit." And so, of course, there's a great rivalry between Australia and England, and I'm for a good, healthy amount of teasing. That's fun. I'm at the end of the day, these are all highly accomplished athletes, and they should be very proud of what they've done. Megan Rapinoe included. She's changed the face of the game and fought for equal pay every day that she has dribbled that ball, and that is fantastic. Apparently, Matildas don't waltz anymore, where they would have won. Waltzing Matilda was not in the game. They had every Matilda there except for waltzing Matilda. I feel that if Australia had waltzing Matilda there, they could have come out of England with a victory. But, I think it's a great way to get your political aggressions out. In Berlin, where I was for a World Cup, when Germany was hosting, I believe, flags were flown out of every residence window of the different teams from around the world participating. And that was a beautiful thing. We watched the game at the Weinsalon, and our bartender was from Japan. And so when Japan played, he was just so proud. And of course, when Japan lost, He, traditionally was held his head in shame and served free drinks for the rest of the night.
They don't commit Harry though, do they? When their teams
no,
lose?
not anymore.
I think the Soviet Union, right? If you lost an Olympic performance, you were supposed to win when you were competing for the Soviet Union. You might take one for the team, meaning just jump off a bridge. They did not like losing, but I'm glad to know the Japanese aren't taking
really.
it that
Do they have a
seriously.
history of Olympic athlete deaths like we have a history of political intern deaths in their country? I'm not following.
I
them.
don't know. I'm just I'm speculating.
I
don't
know
really
that some
know
of
about
these
that.
athletes in other countries are, and even here, I know that the pressure is insane for them to win. And I know that some of these athletes face abusive tactics to achieve that winner mentality. And I don't think that's necessary. But then I've had the good fortune of training in a martial art for over 20 years that does not practice competition. And I think that's really important in an athletic perspective, is that, yes, it's a game, but each person needs to be competing against themselves to be their better self, to be their better player, together to be the better team. But at the end of the day, every person who has fought their way to that cup is world class. I used to go see the Diplomats, and I caught Pele once on the field, and he passed this year. God bless Pele, and what he did for impoverished kids and inspiring people to believe that they can and will move beyond their circumstances. Very meaningful to me. And to see women be recognized on the world stage as first-rate athletes is intensely critical. So I'm a big supporter of all the women leagues, including basketball. And I'm looking forward to seeing more finances go to women and more commercial sponsors, et cetera.
All right. Well, I think we're going to just about call that a wrap. Final words from you, Felicia, before we exit.
I want to just thank you for having us and helping Elizabeth support this amazing cause. And please show up at Westside Comedy Club.
Thank you both. Have a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow with a free for all.
What about my final words? My final words.
Oh, I thought you had them. I thought
we don't have enough time for that, Elizabeth.
No, we got it. Come on. Rhonda Handsome worked with Diana Ross and Aretha Franklin, ran an off-Broadway show regarding the indictments that we wanted to see fall onto Trump. Felicia Michaels has a great show called Age Against the Machine. I'm so excited she's flying in from Los Angeles. Woohoo! Carol Montgomery is a personal hero of mine. She's the executive producer of 3 Showtime specials, Funny Women of a Certain Age. She's been on all kinds of television. I'm sure you'll recognize her. I'm really excited about this show. Thank you so much for having Felicia and myself on your show again, Hal. And if I say one more compliment, I like your hair. Can I come back on the show again?
We'll always make room for you, Elizabeth. Thank you both so much. What an honor for me. Really fun hour. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye. Thank you for having us.